Thanks for being here, you guys. Come on in. We know that this is not by any means an ideal situation for a performance, albeit it is what we are dealing with. Our back's kind of against a wall with squeezing in a performance. With all of the snow days and with every third day being a late start, we're kind of trapped as to what we can do for our performances. So after talking with Mr. Forsyth and Mr. Fisher and our building administrators, we decided that this was the best way to get in our performance, and we are calling it an Informance. An Informance is an informal, informative performance / open rehearsal where you can kind of see what happens during the school day and some of our educational points that we're trying to achieve at with different pieces that we're working on. So it's really just kind of an open book. I'll talk through everything as we're doing it. Well, not as we're doing it, but before the pieces. We've been working on this music since our last concert, part of it. Really not hardcore since after Christmas vacation, because at Christmas time we had lots of pullouts for playing in the community, things like that, so there are a lot of rehearsals that were missed. So with that and all of our snow days, we've had these pieces, probably worked on these pieces for 5 weeks. Ballpark 5-6 weeks, depending on when we have rehearsal. So I think a lot of you may know by now, I am not driven hard by the performance and perfection. I'm driven by improvement and the kids having enjoyment out of music. So if we can meet benchmarks and make improvement throughout the school year, then we're being successful. And if the kids are enjoying it, that's an added bonus. So that's our goals as a music department at this level in the middle school. And we're going to start with a piece called Simmer on Fanfare. The kids have enjoyed this piece, I think, for the most part. This piece is a typical middle school honor band performance piece. So some kids have heard this or maybe performed it at an honor band that they've been at. It's a very driving piece. Each section gets the melody. That's why it was chosen. A lot of times, different sections. French horns, for instance, trombone, low brass, they don't get to shine very much in a piece. This floats along in between each of the sections. So this is Simmer on Fanfare by Robert Sheldon. So we're working a lot on those accents and spaces, correct? form into two pieces for you, obviously, since we just had the five and a half weeks of rehearsals on this music. The next piece we're playing, and the final piece, is called Downing Street March by Barry Kopetz. And this is also a level 2 piece for our middle school band. I'm really passionate about teaching a march before every concert, or leading into each concert. So much musicality can be found in a march when you're playing it properly. Marches don't always have to be challenging, but if you're going to use it with correct dynamics and accents, and you listen to the music modulate between the trio, it's much more complex than a lot of people realize when they're doing a march. So to play it well, it takes a whole bunch of work, and I really hone in on the kids, and a lot of times they maybe don't enjoy it as much as I do when I'm teaching it. The final product's always great, but it's quite agonizing in the process for a lot of them. This is an English march, so British march, and it is Downing Street March. You may recognize that name. That is where the street on which the Prime Minister lives in London. An English march is still a march, but it's not our traditional American march that we typically play. An American march goes at the tempo of 120, and English march goes to about 90 to 100, 105. And it's a little slower, much more pop and circumstance, a bit more arrogant, not as much in your face as the American abrasive marches can be. So it's a completely different style. I don't know if they're aware that they learned all of those things and the differences between the two marches while we were working on it, but that was kind of a little cherry on the top for me. It's like, oh, my kids know two different types of marches. No, it's very interesting when you're me. So anyway, not to bore you anymore, this march is typical in the fact that the brass and the upper woodwinds, the high brass and the upper woodwinds do have most of the melody. The low brass get to do a little bit more interesting things here than they would in a typical American march. A lot of English marches are written with a lot of strong French horn parts and not so many upper woodwind parts, the old traditional English marches were. So this is a nice variation on that as well. What else have we worked on in this piece? Balance and blend. That has been different. At most marches, you can just be forefront and everybody's loud, everybody's soft. There's been a lot more contrast in this. So these are some things that we've worked on in this march. I think that's about it. Percussion also got to try some new things. We have new people on new instruments in this piece, and you will hear some of that. So new instruments to them. I'll quit rambling. This is Downing Street March. Ready? in May. We do have Solo and Ensemble Festival in March, the Thursday before break. So that is optional for 7th and 8th graders. It's required for 5th and 6th, so that's the difference. So if your child has not been hearing them do a solo or a duet, they opt for that. Since I do have some brass parents here, I will tell you we were very, very fortunate. If you see our administration around, specifically Todd Forsythe and Mr. Mike Fisher, we had a great gift given to us where I was able to hire somebody to help teach brass lessons. So I have somebody who's been hired. He comes in every Thursday. He is a retired band director. He's not old and ancient. He is newly retired. I taught with him for 10 years in Mason City. Mr. Mike McInerney. He's a very well-respected music educator. He comes every Thursday and teaches all of my 7th grade brass, most of my 6th grade brass, and French horn lessons. He also teaches at Waldorf College, so he's got skills beyond what we would hope for a part-time employee. So he does come once a week and does that for us. So if you have a child that has him for lessons, ask them about it. They will be enjoying it. Not everybody has him that plays those instruments stated. 8th grade trumpet, I've reminded Mr. Gassman, just because they'll have him for band next year also. So please tell them thank you. That was a big financial investment for them, but we are simply busting at the seams at the 5th through 8th grade level. So we needed additional support, and we're very thankful to have that. And I think the kids have been enjoying it. So that is fantastic. So we have that option for you in March if your child is participating in Solo Ensemble Festival, and then we have our next concert in May. And also these peeps behind me and myself get to go to Adventureland. I believe our date for Adventureland is the Friday before Memorial Day. So that's a trip that's free of cost for them. That is earned by their calendar sales that they did at the beginning of the school year. So they are set for that, and they're still trying to get over having to miss school, but hopefully they'll come to terms with that on that day. So thanks a lot for coming in. We know this is not ideal, but we made the best of it. So here's our learning space. Have a great day. Thank you. Well, welcome to our Informance. Thank you for coming. This is maybe a bit unconventional for what we would normally have as a performance, but we're kind of in a pickle scheduling, as we all know, so we are just delighted that we were able to throw something together where we could get some people in. And of course, our trustee, Mr. DeVore, will have this on the PAM network. If anybody is not able to make it, you can point them in that direction. Hopefully it won't be up there for too long, since it's not a traditional performance. I'll remind you of that, Mr. DeVore. But anyway, this is very nice. Ms. Lyman, Mrs. Pittman, all the 6th grade teachers actually suggested that we have the Informants up here in this area so their peers could hear them play and just bring it home would be a good way to put it. So, as you know, we have not spent a lot of time together in the last month. Very minimal. Our concert would have been last Tuesday, but that was when snowstorm number 6 happened. So we were home, and this will work out well. An Informance is technically an informal gathering, an informal and informative performance of the literature you've been working on. So it is stuff that, yes, it is what we would have played for our concert last week, but it's stuff that, you know, hasn't really been refined necessarily because of our lack of time together. So we're going to do our best and enjoy it while we're doing it. We're going to start with a piece called Project Mercury. It is written in a fanfare type style where it's a very robust opening, and fanfares are typically pieces that we use to start a concert with. It's kind of what we call an attention getter. So you'll hear that in a lot of fast moving parts. Also, this piece is interesting. It's been pretty enjoyable for most every section in the band to play because the melody is passed from group to group. It isn't just isolated in the upper woodwinds or the trumpets, as oftentimes the melody is. So I hope they've enjoyed it, and regardless, they have worked hard on it. So here is Project Mercury. All right, we sit out here. play for you. Our concert that we have in February, traditionally each group usually does 2, possibly 3 pieces because it has all of the different bands on that concert. So we just had our 2 pieces prepared for that concert. The next piece we're going to play is called 2 Sunset Sketches. It's written in a similar way as having 2 movements. There's not a complete stop at the end of the slow movement. It does segue or go into the faster section right away. This has made the clarinets really work to play, to blend together. Their part is not difficult technically with the fingers, but it is challenging to play it musically because they really have to listen between the different parts within the section. When you start in band, we do things oftentimes in unison. So for instance, all the clarinets, all the trumpets play the same pitches the whole time. So there isn't any discrepancy as to where you should be. And in 6th grade, we start to split things a little bit. So the clarinets have 2 different melodies going, or 2 different parts going, the main line and then a harmony. The trumpet set is also introduced in there. And once in a great while in the flute section, not as often. But that is something that they start to do in 6th grade. It's a big developing part of their musicality that they learn to play independently a lot more. So that is something that we do work on, and that is obvious to my ears in this piece. And it adds a little more depth to it also. Our next performance, these kids are all required to be doing a solo for Solo Festival, March 7th. That is a Thursday, the Thursday before spring break. And you should have received an email from me sometime, and I emailed it out last evening, saying that if you would like you to go, your child to do their solo on Thursday, March 7th, that's awesome. That is also the date of the matinee for the middle school play, and I know that involves a lot of families. And I know Thursday nights are a busy night with different activities, dance being one of them. So I have opened it up that if you would prefer to do your solo performance Friday during the school day, that is an option. And that will work fine. A few of our judges are retired band directors, and they will offer to come in during the school day if necessary to get those kids in. So if that works for your family's schedule and you'd like to have your child perform their solo during the school day on Friday, it wouldn't be for the whole school. It would still be a small setting like the Winter Solo Festival. Then just respond to that email and let me know. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, 1, your child must not be practicing their solo at home, so I'm not nervous. And 2, I may have the wrong email address. So if you would like to talk to me about that, please do so afterwards. So we have that performance in March, and then our last concert of the year is in May. If we have school tomorrow, we will have our after-school band that we have, the Common Intermediate Band that we started here after Christmas break, that some of these kids are part of, and they will also perform on the May concert. So, all right, our next and final selection is 2 Sunset Sketches.